Hey, the world's full of fantastic music. Each month, we explore an album of significance, its roots, how it makes us feel, and then banter about its influence and staying power. Join us on our journey as we dissect, discuss, and discover some of the world's greatest albums on The Sonic Collective.
Thanks for tuning in to The Sonic Collective. It is November 2021, and my name is Alain. It's my turn to pick what we're reviewing this month, and I've chosen the album Welcome Reality by the group Nero. Now look, I'm a fan of lots of different musical genres, but I've always found it difficult to get into the electronic music. I like the occasional bro step song by artists like Skrillex, and I really don't mind the odd deadmau5 song either, but generally speaking, I find electronic music, particularly the EDM variety, that's electronic dance music, a bit repetitive and inhuman, lacking any sort of meaningful message or soul. But perhaps I've been a bit too close-minded to an entire category of music. This is the part where I introduce you to Joe Ray and couple Dan Stevens and Alain Watson, whom together make up the British electronic trio known as Nero. Joe and Dan were introduced through a mutual friend back in 2001 when they were about 17. They both enjoyed playing instruments and were interested in making electronic music on their computers, so they had a lot in common. They began working together, setting up a studio in Stevens' bedroom. The duo released their first song shortly after. Now, they met Alain Watson the following year, though she didn't really start contributing her vocal talents to Nero's music until around 2008. Throughout the first decade of the 2000s, Nero released a number of singles, remixes, and a drum and bass EP, which helped them gain some clout among EDM circles. It wasn't until the release of their debut album in 2021, called Welcome Reality, that the trio really began to enjoy a more mainstream success. This album marked a shift from their predominantly drum and bass style to something that sounds an awful lot like dubstep, which at the time was quickly growing in popularity worldwide thanks to mainstream artists like Skrillex and deadmau5. This 14-track concept album stabs at taking listeners on an adventure to explore what's left of civilization in the year 2808. Welcome Reality reached a peak position of number 1 on the weekly UK album charts and equally high on the UK dance album charts. It also cracked the top 10 US dance charts. Reviews of the album were mixed but generally favorable. The album featured a number of singles, including songs like Innocence, Me and You, and Promises. Alongside the trio's commercial and critical success, Nero would go on to win several awards, including a Grammy for their collaborative remix of Promises with Skrillex. Eventually, Welcome Reality would reach gold status in 2015, selling about 120,000 copies in the US. I couldn't find any more recent sales figures than that, but I can tell you that Nero gets about 1,375,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, so it's safe to say they are not just a flash in the pan. So friends, this month, let's dive into the electronic world of Welcome Reality and see if we can unpack what the year 2808 holds in store for us, at least through the eyes of Nero. Be sure to tune in at the end of the month to find out what we all think of Nero's debut album, Welcome Reality.
Thanks for listening and exploring with us. We'll be back real soon with another pick and critique of albums that matter here at The Sonic Collective.